Hello there guys, Elite Legionarii here, and today I'm going to be bringing you another one of the historical battle walkthroughs for Rome Total War. This is going to be the Battle of Gergovia, or the Siege of Gergovia. It's technically a siege battle, but it doesn't really turn out to be major in terms of siege style. But just another walkthrough here, so hopefully you guys enjoy this and it helps, and I'll let you enjoy the intro. So here we go.
Julius Caesar is, by any definition, a successful Roman general and politician. In a series of brilliant campaigns, he has defeated many Gallic tribes and brought new lands into the Roman Empire. His Roman legionaries, veterans of many battles, take pride in their skill and valor. Vercingetorix, the leader of the Arverni tribe, has revolted against Roman rule. For once, Caesar has been overtaken by events, forced to react rather than forge his own destiny. It is now 1 year later, and the rebellion is not yet crushed. At Gergovia, the Gauls are ready, watching the Roman army on a nearby hill. Being ambushed, Caesar has sent Roman legionaries to the far side of Gergovia to watch for any encircling enemies. The Gauls are equally suspicious and send their entire army to watch over the marching Romans. To allow reinforcement, the small Roman detachment is ambushed and destroyed by Gallic warriors. Seeing that the Gauls have abandoned their camp, Caesar orders his troops towards the fort. Of Caesar's attack reaches the Gauls, they move to counter the Romans. And Caesar, in turn, recognizes the new danger and sounds the retreat. But the legions appear not to have heard their new orders. Instead, the Romans charge the fort. Caesar's men suddenly find themselves on dangerous ground, surrounded by angry Gauls. The ram must be protected if the Romans are to take the fort. Perhaps then the tables can be turned on the barbarians.
Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that one. So this is the Siege of Gergovia. Now, this battle, much like the Battle of Lake Trasimene, I highly recommend that you pause at the start and position your troops, because you're in a very similar situation to Trasimene, only you probably need to be quicker here, because you're surrounded on two sides and there's a shorter distance for the enemy troops to reach you than there is at Trasimene. So you need to be quite quick. So I highly recommend that you pause if you're just a standard sort of micro like myself, or unless you're very, very fast on your keyboard, you can get yourself overwhelmed by how quickly the CPU can kind of drop everything on top of you. So just pause and tell your men to position and go from there. It's easier that way, basically. That's what I recommend doing. So I'll unpause and you'll see what I did. So what I recommend is grabbing I'm just getting rid of the camera restrict there. What I recommend is getting the about 5 units. You want to drop the RAM, of course, because you want that unit to be able to fight. You grab about 5 units on the side here. I believe more 4 or 5 is fine. And do the same on the other side, like so, and drag it out. 4 or 5, it just depends, and form them up, like so. And then you want to I'm just double checking I have enough selected there, I think. Then what you want to do is get your archers, and you want to be putting them in the center there. You can use these units here to block off, so it's kind of like a little box, and you can just pull off units where you need to support them. I also recommend you bring your cavalry back, like what I'm doing here, because this allows you to encircle the Gallic troops when they come in, because you don't want to lose your cav, because your cav is quite handy. And you just put the 2 archer auxilia in the centre and let them fire away at most relevant targets, basically. So I highly recommend pausing like I've done here, because this really does pull, this fight comes down on you pretty quick. So here we go. So you want to deselect the RAM, you have to actually do that after you pause. Now I accidentally made a slight error there, and I didn't note that I must have selected too many units for one side, and there's a gap there, so don't do something like that. I was actually a bit fortunate here in that, because no one actually went into that gap, but that's just an easy mistake. Turn your peeler on, and they charge their cav usually right away. Just destroy their cav, because the cav, once they lose the cav, that gives you cavalry supremacy of the field, and legionary cav is better than barbarian noble cav anyway. And as you can see, the cav gets pretty easily destroyed, and then as you can see, what's going to happen is the Gauls are just going to charge you here, and this is where you're going to be able to defeat them, because your Roman legions will be able to stand up to that much longer than their troops will, and with their cav destroyed, you can just easily go around behind them with your own cav and just hammer and anvil them until they are destroyed. And when you free up legions, just bring them into areas where they're needed, basically. It's pretty straightforward. The archers, try and use them to target the general unit and kill that, because with barbarians, if they lose the general, it makes it way easier to kill them. So killing the general is very useful if you can get it right away. You do need to be careful though. There are a couple of Forester warband in the woods, but I highly recommend you use your cav to destroy the infantry and cavalry forces before you bother with those, because otherwise you might find yourself getting in a little trouble. But overall, this fight's pretty easy. The Gallic troops are not strong enough to hold up to the Roman troops for that very long, so as long as you're not caught out of position, your Roman troops will be able to defeat them. And then when the general dies like there, you see big routs start to happen pretty quickly. As you can see, one whole side started routing, and when my cav comes in here, a significant number of them will start routing as well. So look at that, they'll just rout just like that. So that's how you can defeat Gallic, or any barbarian troops quicker. They're just not standing up to Roman troops this long. So that's why you want to make sure. I highly recommend pausing there at the start, because if they can catch you out of position, they will probably be able to destroy you. But if you just take your time, position like that, create basically a box type formation, and just use your cav to get in behind them. Now at this point, I recommend you probably best to go and kill those archers, because they're a nuisance and they will get some flank shots if you're not careful. But as you can see, at this stage I've got a great deal of my army still alive, because you can just wear the Gallic troops down, because they charged their cav in at first and wasted them. And this is what I mean, even if you put this on very hard difficulty, the AI will still do that. The only reason that makes very hard difficulty more difficult is because the AI will have insanely high morale, with your guys getting really bad morale penalties, which means even though you might get way better positioning and everything, you're still likely to lose. So I don't recommend playing it on that difficulty, to be honest, because I think the game cheats you, which I don't like, but it's up to you how you want to do that. But it doesn't really matter about that, because all the tactics that I show you in these videos work for all difficulty levels. You just got to be a bit quicker and realise that the game's going to be a little unfair to you as you go up higher on difficulty. So I don't like the game cheating me when I do perfectly good tactical manoeuvres, and the game essentially just allows the AI to cheat to win. I don't think that's proper. I would definitely do it if the AI was more intelligent, because that would be more of a mind challenge, but they just don't. So enough of that dribble though. Basically what you want to do is just do what I did here, just create the box, and then get the RAM here, try and pick up routers before they can get back into the gate. Sometimes if you rush here, you can get your cav to go through the gates before they can close it, at which point you can actually seize the gate yourself, and then you don't even need to bother with the RAM, and which in this case I was able to do.
capture this place.
But as you can see, by this point there is very, very little left to the Gallic army. So just keep cav in. Don't let them too isolated, just in case the enemy cav tries rushing you here, because your general's there. But your legionary cav will defeat any of the barbarian noble cav. It's quite a bit better. You can bring up your archers to start supporting at this stage. But as you can see, I've still got absolutely tons of my legions left, and they'll just make mincemeat out of what's left there. So it's not as hard as it may seem, but it can be tricky if you don't pause there at start, unless you're very confident that you're quick on a keyboard. Like, some of you are just really naturally good at moving around fast on a keyboard. I'm average. I can sometimes be quick, sometimes I'm slow. I generally tend to be in the middle, and I prefer like not to pause if possible. But just a couple of these battles, like Trasimene, this one, Gergovia Forest and stuff, everything unleashes on you so fast that I find that even after all this time playing Rome and Total War, I still actually need to kind of do it that way, because if I don't, I find myself getting overwhelmed by how quick everything falls on top of me. So that don't think just because of the AI, and the AI is stupid most of the time, but sometimes just because it's set up in such a way to ambush you like that, it just absolutely launches everything at once. And because the AI can do like 1,000 things at once, you can only do about 1 or 2 things at once because you're a human. And even though the AI makes dumb decisions, it's way quicker than you. So some of you are really fast on the keyboard. I mean, that's awesome, but I'm not. I'm sure other people like me who are probably not as well, but it doesn't mean it's not undoable or anything like that. So basically you just want to create that box-like formation, then send the cav to the back and then just hammer and anvil them. At this stage, if you get to the fight and there's this much of your stuff left, it's pretty standard. Just take your units in groups and attack from 2 angles basically, and it's pretty much over. The general's dead and their morale is low. Try and kill the general if you can, because it doesn't matter what barbarian faction it is. Any barbarian faction that loses its general, particularly fast, is really, really weak in comparison to what it might ordinarily be. So it doesn't matter if it's Gauls or it's Germania or it's Britannia or Scythia or Dacia or whatever, any one of them, doesn't matter. They rely on their general quite a bit for their morale. So unlike the Romans and the Greek factions, like Romans, you can lose the general really early in a fight and they can still hold for ages. So that's why if you can kill the general, I mean, don't make it your priority if there's some other important part of the battle that's more important, but if you see an opening to do it, I recommend it. It's recommendable in any case really, but not at the expense of some other important tactical situation, such as like getting a rout on several units or something like that. It just depends if it's an opening. So you should take the opening then, but overall, Gergovia, it's just not, as long as you just sort of do what I did here, and don't get too hasty or don't split your troops up. Try and keep them together in support of each other. You shouldn't actually find it that difficult. It's just that I think some people with Gergovia think because you're in that ambush position, you're going to have a hard time. But as long as you just sort of take your time there with that deployment and just stay together and tight, your Roman troops will defeat the Gallic troops pretty easy because they're just better. Bit of a different story for the Battle of Gergovia Forest, where the German troops are much more dangerous to your Roman troops, because Germania is much more dangerous to Rome than Gaul is. But I won't give away too much to do with that fight just yet, because it's still a few battles away yet before I get to that one. And of course I will be uploading a few other little tidbits in between. As I said, one of my 31k uploads recently, that because the GameSpy server is being shut down, I'm trying to make as much room for Rome Total War as possible. So I'll just quickly pause this just so we have time. As you can see, clear victory, 1,119 kills, 340 losses, and more than half my army alive. It's quite easy to get a heroic victory actually. Sometimes I do it better than this, just depends. But usually it's easily a clear victory. Not very difficult, to be honest. It's just as long as you don't get yourself spread out. Don't go chasing fights. You don't need to. Set up that nice box-like formation. Have your peeler on. The enemy will usually charge their cav straight in. You can just rip it to bits with your peeler and wait for the enemy infantry to engage, and then come in behind it with your own cavalry that you sent to the back and destroy them, and then just support fight certain parts of the fight as they need it. And if you can, try and kill the general, because that speeds it up even more with barbarians. There's the stats, as you can see. The legions did pretty good, but those cav got quite a bit of kills. But I think one of the legionary cohorts, they will easily outclass these units because Roman legions are just better than Gallic troops for the most part. The chosen swordsmen can be dangerous, but there's not that many of them really in this particular fight, so it's not too dangerous. So just sort of follow this guide, guys, and enjoy. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon next time.